How's it going, Guardians? Shifty here, and we're just 4 days away from Season 15 in Destiny 2. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, that new season is going to be called Season of the Lost. With just a few days left, I figured some of you may be bored and looking for something to do to pass the time until the new season drops. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be going over some things that you can do to prepare yourself for next season. I do want to mention that you don't have to feel any pressure to prep for next season. Some people enjoy it and some people don't. You can also do as few or as many of these as you would like. Now, before I get into it, if you end up enjoying the video, make sure to hit that like button, and if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is bounty prepping. This is simply the act of collecting bounties, completing said bounties, and holding onto them without turning them in until the new season. Now, I know not everyone likes to complete bounties, especially towards the end of the season, but this is a good way to get a boost on your artifact and your season pass right away. Now, if you like to play the game slow, this probably isn't worth doing, but if you like to gain a boost to your season pass and artifact level, this is an excellent way to prep for next season. To do this, I would highly recommend avoiding any of the repeatable bounties and instead go for weekly bounties and daily bounties. As you can see, I saved the Iron Banner from the previous Iron Banner event, but that's not going to be an option for you at this point in the season. However, you can pick up all of this week's weekly bounties and you can grab the daily bounties for the next 4 days. I do want to mention that I'm personally avoiding the Vanguard bounties. The reason for this is Vanguard tokens are going away and those bounties award Vanguard tokens, so any changes to the bounty could make it so those disappear next season. Now, in terms of weekly bounties, those are going to give you the most experience, and you can find some at the Lectern of Enchantment on the moon. You can also find some at Eris Morn on the moon. You can also head on over to Europa and talk with Varix to get a couple weekly bounties there as well. And last but not least, you can find 2 weekly bounties at Shah Han in the Cosmodrome. For this method of prepping, you can go ahead and go all out and do all of the bounties on all 3 characters, or you can just do them on 1. Even just doing a handful of bounties will give you a boost to experience at the beginning of next season. Alright, now I want to move on to weapons. What weapons should you be getting to prepare for next season? As many of you probably already know, there's going to be an anti-barrier auto rifle mod, unstoppable fusion and linear fusion rifle mod, overload bow mod, unstoppable pulse rifle mod, and unstoppable sidearm mod. And it was also hinted at that we're going to be getting an overload sword mod. With that said, I want to go over a few weapons that I'm probably going to be using against champions next season. Of course, I don't know what new weapons are going to come out or what roles they'll have, but I'm going to go over what weapons I already have that I'm going to be using. So in terms of an anti-barrier auto rifle, I decided to go with something with decent range, so I'm going to be using the False Promises auto rifle. This isn't the greatest auto rifle of all time, but it does have a good range stat, so I'm probably going to be using it quite a bit. Now, with the only anti-barrier mod being for auto rifles, I highly recommend getting your hands on Ariana's Vow, since it has intrinsic anti-barrier rounds that will also open up a mod slot in your arms. Now, in terms of the unstoppable fusion rifle and linear fusion rifle mod, I'm going to be using something like Null Composure. I'm probably going to be using Telesto, as it's already one of my favorite exotic weapons of all time. And I also have a Cartesian Coordinate, which is a rapid fire frame with under pressure and Vorpal weapon. Now, as for linear fusion rifle, there's going to be a few solid options. Threaded Needle from Season of the Chosen is going to be a decent option. I have a pretty solid roll with Rapid Hit and Frenzy, so if you have a similar roll, I think that's a good option for champions. There's also the Corsair's Wrath linear fusion rifle from Season of the Hunt. The perks that can roll on Corsair's Wrath aren't as great, but it's still a solid option, especially if you're looking for a solar linear fusion rifle. Then in terms of exotic linear fusion rifles, I'm probably going to use Sleeper Simulant quite a bit. Next up, for the overload bow mod, I want to go with bows that have explosive head. Those work extremely well against overload champions. In terms of an exotic bow that's an absolute monster against overload champions, I would go with Le Mans Arc. The damage over time is going to help prevent overload champions from healing between stuns. Next up, for unstoppable pulse rifles, I'm probably going to be using something like Sacred Provenance. However, a good Cold Denial would work well, and pretty much any pulse rifle would actually work. I would just pick your favorite one. I also want to tell you not to sleep on Outbreak Perfected for unstoppable champions. With the nanites increasing damage against the target that you're shooting, this weapon can do a significant amount of damage for a primary weapon. As for sidearms, I don't have much to say. If you're going to be choosing a sidearm against unstoppable champions, you probably already have your favorite sidearm. So I would just go ahead and use that. Now I want to move on and talk about upgrade materials. I would highly recommend trying to build up your stack of enhancement cores. If you do have some finest matter weaves, I would go ahead and use those as much as possible over the next 4 days. You could also max out your upgrade modules by going to Banshee and buying them from him, and then if it's within your means, I would go ahead and try to get some Enhancement Prisms and Ascendant Shards. As you can see, I maxed out on Enhancement Prisms and Ascendant Shards in my inventory. I also went ahead and farmed Grandmaster Nightfalls until I had max stacks of Enhancement Prisms and Ascendant Shards in my Postmaster. Now if you really want to, you can go ahead and do this on all 3 characters and you'll have 40 Ascendant Shards and 200 Enhancement Prisms. Don't feel pressured if you can't do Grandmaster Nightfalls, you can still collect some of those upgrade materials. Instead of doing a Grandmaster Nightfall, you could go ahead and do a Master Nightfall. If that doesn't work, you could always head down to Legend. And if that still doesn't work, you could even go to Hero and farm some Enhancement Prisms and Enhancement Cores. The good thing about Hero difficulty is matchmaking is on, so you can just go ahead and keep farming that endlessly with a team. For Legend, Master, or Grandmaster, you're going to have to find a team yourself, or if you're comfortable enough to solo them, go ahead and do that. Then in terms of Glimmer or Planetary materials, I would recommend heading to Spider each day and checking his inventory. That way you can stock up on Glimmer if you're low on that, or any of the Planetary materials you may be low on. Alright, now I have a couple small tips to round out the video. If you're looking at using a specific build and certain weapons right at the beginning of next season, I would transfer those over to your character right away. At the beginning of Season of the Lost, I plan on using Nova Warp with Controverse Hold, so I'm going to make sure I have that all set up. Then I'm going to transfer any weapons that I want to use at the beginning of the season over to my Warlock. If you plan on playing on multiple characters, I would highly recommend getting all of them set up before the new season launches. Also, if you have any Vanguard tokens sitting around, make sure to turn those in as they will be going away next season. I will be holding on to any Umbral Engrams that I pick up over the next 4 days. That way I might have an opportunity to get some new world drops, or maybe even some new seasonal weapons. Another thing that may be coming in Season 15 is another Stasis aspect as well as some more Stasis Fragments. One thing that people don't know is that you can actually get a head start on getting your Stasis Fragments. If you already have the Stasis Fragments for Season 14 but you have a couple more Stasis Fragment quests, you can actually complete those. If you complete any of those, you will get another memory fragment. However, if you keep that in your inventory, you won't be able to use it as it will go away at the start of next season. But if you go ahead and put it in your vault, those won't disappear. So right when you're able to next season, you'll be able to go and pick up another Stasis Fragment. In my case, I was able to do 2 additional Stasis Fragment quests, so I have 2 of those memory fragments sitting in my vault. Another thing I would recommend doing is going through your vault and finding armor and weapons that you don't need. That way you can pull them out, you can go ahead and dismantle them, and in some cases you're going to get materials that you may need, Enhancement Cores, Enhancement Prisms, anything like that. Not only will you be getting some material, but you'll also be clearing out space for some of the new weapons that are coming out next season, and there's going to be a lot of them. You're probably going to want the space with any new armor dropping, as well as the Trials of the 9 weapons going to the Prophecy Dungeon. There's going to be new world drops, as well as the seasonal weapons. There's also going to be the new ritual weapon, as well as weapons dropping from Strikes, Gambit, Crucible, and Nightfalls. So whatever you need to do to open up some space in your vault or inventory, go ahead and do it. The final thing I want to mention is make sure to head to Lord Shaxx and the Drifter. You may have some Engrams sitting there from leveling up your Valor or Infamy. Alright, well that brings us to the end of my last minute prep guide for Season of the Lost. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe. I just want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.